Hello, everybody. Welcome to our webinar today. I'm so excited for this one because, as you can see, I have some awesome special guests with me today. So today we're going to be going over how to stay engaging in a boring industry. This has actually been a huge request that we've had from our community for a while now because, of course, like memes are great and fun and pop culture is fun, but there's some industries that can't really tap into like that meme content and that sort of stuff. So how are you supposed to stay engaging when you're in that boring industry? So we're so excited to go over this topic today. Before we jump in, everyone let me know in the chat what industry you're in. We love to see what kind of boring industries people are in. I feel like whenever I say boring, I have to go like that because I'm like, it might not actually be boring, but let us know in the chat what industries you are in. Okay, we have higher ed, financial services, mortgage, law, healthcare. Oh, wow. I love like the array of industries that we have right now. This is amazing. Love it. Awesome. Well, keep sharing those industries in the chat. We love to see them. And we'll hop right into it because we have so much amazing info to go over today. So we'll quickly do some intros. So my name is Alyssa. So I'm a community manager here at HeyOrca. So I work on our webinars, our Facebook group, our newsletter, all that good stuff. But I can now pass it over to our guests. So I can pass it to Elena first. And I know you have a slide that goes a bit deeper about you. So you can just share a really quick intro about yourself.
Right, perfect. Thank you. Well, hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Thank you for that introduction as well, Alyssa. But just to introduce myself a little bit further, so my name's Eleanor. I'm actually in a profession that probably gets as boring as you can kind of get, maybe, and I'm a lawyer by profession, so I'm a solicitor. I've done every job in a law firm, from opening post to being made partner. During the pandemic, I actually started my own law firm, which kind of brought me on to starting a social media agency a few years later. I sold out that law firm last year, but interestingly, I actually used social media to find all of my clients for my law firm, and that was quite a nice surprise to find out that actually there were clients for a legal business on platforms like Instagram and LinkedIn, which I wasn't really expecting. But we were in the middle of a pandemic, in lockdown, we couldn't really go out and meet people. So I looked at the only place that I kind of knew and probably understood at the time, which was social media, but only having used it in a personal capacity as opposed to a professional capacity. But it seemed to work, and that kind of gave me the idea of, is there a business idea there? Can you kind of help other law firms? Law firms are historically just really bad at using social media, and I could see it sort of looking at other accounts when I was looking for inspiration. There just wasn't much out there. So when I got busy within my legal business, I looked to outsource it, and I couldn't really find an agency to take over and kind of do what I was doing for myself. So that's where the idea came from. Last year, around 8 months ago, I launched a social media agency that predominantly deals and helps law firms do better on social media. So it's definitely a bit of a challenge. But yeah, I think that's all that I can kind of say. And in terms of my profession as well, I was a personal injury solicitor, so I'd done that for 12 years, so quite a long time. So my position was quite unique in that when I started my agency, I didn't really have any agency experience, and I was coming straight from working as a lawyer. So myself and my team, we've all had a huge learning curve in terms of learning agency life, and then learning social media marketing, and then learning how to do it well, or not so well, as I'll go on, because we've had a lot of learnings to do to try and obviously get good at marketing a boring niche, really. I'll move on to the next slide.
Oh, wait,
So,
before you go on, I just want to mention really quickly, we do have a giveaway. So I just want everyone to know that before we head into it. We'll be announcing the winner at the very end. So to enter the giveaway, just head over to the HeyOrca Instagram page. We have a poll on there about boring industries. So go on there, vote on the poll, and we will be choosing a winner from there at the very end. And then if you are a HeyOrca customer, let us know in the chat today. We have a second giveaway for you guys. Let me know in the chat which HeyOrca report you use most. That's kind of a random question, but I was in reports today and I was like, I wonder which one people use most. So let us know in the chat and we'll be doing a random giveaway for one of our customers as well. So stay tuned to the end for that, and I'll pass it back over to Elena.
thank you for that. I can see in the chat as well, we do have a few law firm social media executives, so I feel for you, and you probably feel for me quite a bit. But there's a saying on there at the moment: there's no such thing as a boring niche, just boring content. And it's something that we're always kind of like, we get a lot of clients that just say, oh, it's just boring, and it's boring, and I really don't think that that's the case. And I don't think lawyers are boring in any case. And I'm not just saying that because I'm biased and I am one of them. I think, it's a really interesting industry, and we deal with a lot of interesting cases and a lot of interesting clients. It's just the biggest challenge that I've seen, even from my own personal perspective, is getting that into content that the social media platforms want. My social media agency, Socially Legal, we predominantly deal with social media. We don't sort of do websites or SEO or anything like that. So we just help law firms show up on places like Instagram, TikTok, and LinkedIn. Having said that, there are challenges with all of those platforms that really need to be overcome if you are going to do well on them. So the first thing that is really, really worth doing, whether you're coming at it from an agency perspective, so you're actually acting for, you've got a client who is, let's say, in a boring niche, or you're doing it for yourself. So you may be in house in an organization that you would say is more professional or more on the boring side. You've got to get to know your client really, really well, or get to know where you work, your employer, really, really well, so you understand it. And what we've been guilty of is you kind of rush into the content and creating the content, but you've got to reverse engineer it a little bit and get to know your client. We're working with a personal injury law firm, and me being a personal injury solicitor, you kind of just you start running before you can walk or crawl. But it's about going back and actually saying to yourself, do I understand my client? Can I sell them? Can I explain what they do really well? Because once you get the foundations right, the rest of it is a lot easier. So to us, it was a lot. It was going back to the drawing board and saying, like, who are our clients? Like, what do they want to be known for? What are their values? How do they actually want to show up online? Are these platforms that we want to kind of shoehorn them into, are they actually the right place for them? And actually, we found out that some of the things that we were doing as an agency just didn't align with our clients, and it wasn't the type of brand that they wanted. And sometimes the difficulty is that the clients don't all. This is the problem with these types of clients, is they often don't know, and they kind of look at you and say, you're the expert, and we're going to pay you to solve this headache for us. And you might do something and they might not like it, or it might not turn out the way they wanted it. Sometimes you've got to try it to know that, but you've got to really get to know your clients. Once you've got to know your clients, it's then about, right, who are they? Like, what's the purpose? Like, what are they doing on these platforms? Like what's the overall objective of it? For our clients, a lot of the time, and it will be for a lot of sort of service-based businesses, it'll be to acquire more clients. That tends to be the number one sort of reason that I hear from clients, to say that why they want to be on social media. It's really, really important to say to clients that social media isn't designed to just generate leads. It doesn't always work like that. It's very that top of funnel activity where it's creating brand awareness. It might not necessarily result in leads straight away. So it's important to be upfront with any, like if it's your employer or any clients of your business. And then it's like, okay, so if it is, let's say it is, for example, leads, it could be recruitment, it could just be brand awareness. But if it is leads and they want to reach their target audience, this is where it gets even harder, because then it's a case of going back and doing your persona work. So you've done your persona work on maybe your client, or your employer if you're working in house, and then you have to do your persona work on your actual target audience. And you could have, you might have different types of clients, and this is where we find it quite tricky, where it's a service-based business, and actually you're going to have different types of clients that are using it. But if you do that persona work and you put the time in and the effort to do that and really understand what type of audience you're trying to reach, it will pay dividends, and it'll make the rest of it a lot easier. Let me just have a quick look, and I'll make sure I've not yeah, definitely starting with the persona work and creating personas of your ideal target, and then you move on, and then you say, right, well, we know it could be, let's say Bob, for example. Okay, here's your target audience, but where is this individual hanging out when it comes to social media? There's so many different platforms, but you might have a small budget, or you might be a small team. There's only a handful of us in my business, and sometimes being on every single platform just doesn't make any sense. It's really difficult to manage all social media accounts. So for us and for our clients, it's what platform are they going to get the most return on their investment? What I can say from the experience that we've had so far is, if you've got a client who targets private individuals or consumers, your B2C market, TikTok is one that is really winning out in comparison to the other platforms. In terms of reach on platforms like Instagram and Facebook, it's so limited in comparison to a platform like TikTok. And this is bearing in mind we're kind of starting accounts from scratch as well. So we're dealing with a lot of clients who really haven't used social media, and they might have been in business for 20 years, and they haven't set up these accounts. So we're kind of starting them from scratch. So for us, it's like, where can we get the most momentum, and maybe get them those dopamine hits like as soon as possible, so that they can kind of see the benefits of it. And this professional service companies, being on platforms like Facebook and Instagram, if you're starting those accounts from scratch, it's really, really challenging. So it's about finding, like, where are you going to get that return on investment? For us, we have found that TikTok is working well. But if you then have a client that actually might sell into more professional businesses, so your B2B, so if they're after more corporate commercial clients, LinkedIn is winning over there as a platform. So we're really focusing our attention at the moment on TikTok and LinkedIn. The next thing is figuring out what they actually consume, and this is where nobody really knows, because the truth of it is that a lot of people go on social media to escape reality, to have a bit of a break from their everyday lives, and the stresses that come with that. How do you then break through that to sell a professional service? It's really, really tricky. And we're doing it for a personal injury law firm. So imagine that, like, as lawyers, like, we're a distress purchase. So not only are you like the worst type of purchase someone could be getting, but you're also trying to like educate people on something that actually nobody wants to have to deal with. So it's really hard to get that right and to penetrate it. And a lot of the time it's trial and error. It really is. So it's definitely challenging. Like, what are they purchasing or buying habits? Like, what do you know about your clients? Hopefully most people are starting from a much better position than where I did, where it was like a blank slate. So you may already have a lot of data that you can tap into, and you may already have that persona work that's already been carried out, and you know your target demographic. And then it's a case of, right, where can I tap into on social media to reach that target audience?
Oh, sorry, I just want to shout out some comments here. We have some people sharing. Michelle actually said, "You're speaking directly to my soul." So she feels everything that you're saying right now. And then shout out Maria. She's actually been sharing a few social accounts of boring industries that are doing good content. So thank you, Maria. If anyone else has any Instagram pages, TikTok pages that they think are doing a really good job of this, definitely share it in the chat because I love to check them all out.
Yeah, and thank you guys. I feel like the support is needed. Like we're all in the same boat. And any examples? Like, so we have like the one really good tip is to have an inspiration document. It doesn't matter if it's in your industry or outside of industry. So one of the things that I really like doing is like having documents that I can always go back to. So one is an inspiration document, and we as a team can put like Instagram accounts that inspire us, websites that inspire us, TikTok accounts, LinkedIn accounts, like people that inspire us, so that like being creative is really difficult. Like it's so hard. And you get that like creative block, and like it's hard in like in relatively exciting industries, but when you don't have a product or even a service or even like a software product to sell, nothing physical to look at, it's like you're like fighting against thin air to get something out there. And what happens as well is like sometimes your clients aren't really accessible if you're not in-house, or they don't really want to get involved in content. So I have this struggle, like where if anybody's ever tried to get a lawyer on camera, you're gonna feel my pain. It's really hard, and I speak for myself in saying that as well, because I'm quite stiff on camera. But so then you have like you don't have ideas, and then you don't even have the people to execute them if you do have the ideas. So there's little ways around it, but it is a struggle. Right, so we've identified your target audience, and how are you reaching them? I think I've already kind of touched on this, is to identify which social media you're likely to find your target audience on. B2C, your private type of clients, your general everyday consumers. We kind of, when you look at people around you, like what are they on, you can see the different generations and different demographics on different platforms, but mainly this is going to follow this pattern. Your B2C, your private clients, are going to be on platforms like TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. Small businesses as well can be on those platforms, and Instagram can be really good for reaching small businesses. But predominantly your business clients and your sort of more corporate commercial B2B clients are going to be on a platform like LinkedIn. LinkedIn is going to have its own challenges in that company pages we've seen just don't tend to perform that well as private pages on LinkedIn. Let's have a look. Yeah, we'll go into some common obstacles. The most common obstacles that I'm seeing in working with law firms, but I suspect this will be across the board in any type of professional service, is your people and buying from the business. That's one of the things that I come up with all the time. Sometimes clients will say, well, you can come into the office and things like that. I'm like, we can have a filming day with you. I just don't know, like, how are we going to get what we need, and is it going to be good enough? We can film, right? You can film with your clients, you can do loads of Q&As. Is it going to work on TikTok, or are you still going to be in a 200 to 300 view jail? Because we're in that jail a lot. And the pain is like, it's a good thing your clients don't really know what that means most of the time. You can be like, I've got 200 views, because it's still going to be better than what you're going to get on Instagram. So you might be able to sell it for a short while, but inside it's not going to feel good. Your lack of ideas, like, it's hard. Like, I see it. We sit there, and one way to combat it, yeah, you have your inspiration and things like that, is to really brainstorm, and like force everyone into like a separate room that's outside of maybe your normal room, going for a walk, doing things that are going to help you as an individual as well, like listening to podcasts, signing up to an industry newsletters. So if you have a legal client, we signed up to all the newsletters so we know what's happening in the legal industry. We also signed up to newsletters in social media, like in general. Insight websites is one of the most useful tools that I found. Some of them you have to pay for, some of them are free. Google Trends I've recently discovered, and that's quite good. There are websites for like influencer marketing as well, so they just give you a lot of insights, and these newsletters are really invaluable. Like, you think that they're annoying, but then you go into an industry like this, or you start a business, and then suddenly they're like a bit of a lifeline, and actually they give you that boost, and you think, oh, that's a great idea. Even things on LinkedIn, where like on the right hand corner, I think you have like insights, and even they can give you inspiration sometimes. And then it's about to me, like, I'll read books and I'll listen to podcasts, I'll take walks outside, and that kind of stops me getting into that creative block sometimes. But we just whiteboard loads of ideas, see what comes up. Different people have different ideas. I think it's tapping into what resources you have around you. The next one is actually lack of resources within the business or the organization that you're in. You might not have the budget to maybe do something. There might not be the people to implement those ideas. We've actually found the next one is content, like actually the actual content itself. I have an influencer agency in addition to the social media agency, and we've actually found that tapping into the influencers or the content creators to create content for our clients has been one way to kind of combat your client not wanting to be on camera. So if you've identified that, right, our ideal audience is going to be on a platform like TikTok, but we have absolutely nobody to make any videos, and like, we can't always be the face of our clients' accounts, right? That's not really the ideal scenario to be in. Who else can you get? And actually, UGC is a really, I think, untapped market for this type of like solution to a problem. So we've had some creators create content for our law firm clients, and that's actually done okay. I don't think it's a perfect solution, but I definitely think that that is an option where you can find somebody who you can collaborate with to say, can you create content for our client, because we don't have the resources to do that. So it's definitely one way to kind of one solution for it. Measuring results as well. It's so difficult to measure results when it comes to social media, and I didn't quite appreciate it until I was on this side, because it's that funnel that you can see on the screen, and we are very much at that top of funnel where we're creating that awareness. And yes, you might have 20-30,000 impressions on a post, but your client's only going to look at it and say, well, that hasn't resulted in any leads. But then a month, 2 months later, it might be that somebody thinks of you because they've seen the post and they've seen your content coming up, and actually you've created that brand awareness. But often people won't tell you. Like, I'm really careful now, and I make sure that when there's like a little thing that says, "Where did you hear about us?" that I make sure I tick the right thing so that social media gets the credit it deserves. But before I started this industry, I would just tick anything. It's like I wasn't bothered. But now I realize actually it's quite important, because that's how a business is measuring whether something is successful or not. Obviously, if you're running direct campaigns, then you might be able to have a clearer outline of that. And then finally, I am nearly done. I just wanted to share a few accounts that I use for inspiration when it comes to the legal sector. And I think it's important to actually find inspiration from accounts in your industry that are doing well, so that you've got something to show, whether it's your employer or your clients. And we're based in the UK, so I'm kind of using UK examples, but we've got somebody called the Legal Queen, and she's a divorce solicitor. And yeah, to have 500,000 followers as one individual solicitor is phenomenal, with 4.2 million likes on her content, and she does incredibly well. So whenever somebody says TikTok's not for law, I always automatically kind of think of her and say, well, it is. And her content is so simple. It's just Q&As. And then where her content is getting more and more popular, she's getting more and more questions, and she's able to answer them. And that gives her all the content that she could ever need, content ideas. The next account is actually the Citizens Advice Bureau. I can't pronounce that, which is like it's like a charity organization that helps people, and they have different branches all over the country, but they help people who can't afford to pay solicitors in the traditional form, so people can go there and get free legal advice. But they have a TikTok, and they do really well on there as well. And then finally we come to Atwell Solicitors, which I think is a great point for me to hand over to Elizabeth, who is the mastermind behind Atwell's.
Yay, awesome.
Thank you so much.
And I just want to mention, I do know we have a few questions in the chat. I'm just logging them here, and we will get to those at the end. I just want to make sure we get through all these awesome slides before we get to them. So keep your questions coming, because I am taking them down. So we will now pass it over to Elizabeth.
Thank you. Thanks so much. And thanks for that plug, Elena. So nice and unexpected. my name's Elizabeth. I'm basically the head of social media at Atwell Solicitors, so I'm also a TikTok specialist as well. So yeah, I basically joined Atwell's, I think it was, God, it's been 3 years now, which is insane because it's gone so quickly. But yeah, I joined Atwell's 3 years ago, and I think it was about a year in that they came to me and they were saying there's like a bit of a lack of new like influx of potential employees and like apprenticeships. They really wanted to promote their apprenticeship scheme. And that's why we started the TikTok account. Actually, it wasn't to get more sales or anything, although that has now helped with it. We started it to try and get new employees and young people interested in law and make it more accessible to people of all backgrounds as well, because I think there's a big stigma in the legal industry that you can only have it if you're from one particular background, or you've grown up in a rich family, or you're a certain type of way. And we really wanted to break down the barriers to that and say, no, it's for everyone, and really make it jargon free and accessible to young people. But yeah, so since we started the account, it's just been really great. Like, it's been very challenging, like Elena said, I think in any industry, but especially law. It's so hard because when I first started, I'd been in travel sales and just a lot more fun looking things from the outside. And I remember saying to my mum, she showed me the vacancy for the job, and she said, oh, there's a job going at a law firm. And it was the end of COVID, and I was like, I don't want to work for a law firm. They're so boring. Like, lawyers are so dull. Like, that's not me. And actually, it's just been, I'd say, like, one of the reasons that we've been successful is because we're in law, which sounds ridiculous and a bit like counterintuitive. But I think if you take something like TikTok, this is such a fun platform, and you're like such a traditional sort of niche and you're a traditional sort of looking firm, people don't expect you to be fun, and they don't expect you to be modern and down with the kids. I don't know if I can say that, I'm 27, but yeah, like down with the trends and stuff. So that has actually worked in our favor, I'd say, because I take people that are lawyers and really sort of stiff looking people in suits, and they're actually so fun in real life, and it's just sort of putting that out there and connecting, and it's really connected with a lot of people that aren't in law, a lot of people that are now interested in law. People have come to us and said, like, oh, I was a solicitor for years and I quit, but if I could work with you guys, or like work with like a firm like yours, like, it's just great to see that there's lawyers out there that are modern and fun, and they're not just all in wigs and Harry Potter capes. So yeah, but yeah, so we've been really lucky on the platform. We did start at a good time, but I do think when we started, we didn't really know what we were doing much, because TikTok was so new. There wasn't many people on there. There wasn't many office accounts on there, and we sort of found our talk as it is. So we found out that if we went for sort of the office talk, I don't know how many people are on TikTok, but it's just sort of like taking people in an office scene or taking people in an office environment and sort of showcasing your culture, like your employees, the different characters that you work with. And yeah, so we've been very lucky. And since then, yeah, we've had lots of we've had experience a lot in new employees and apprentices. I think we're oversubscribed now for apprentices. And it's also generated a lot of like leads and web traffic as well. So it's been really good. So yeah, if I was starting an account now from scratch on TikTok, especially in a boring niche like law or any of the niches that you guys are in, but they all sound a lot more interesting than law, I have to say, to be honest. But yeah, so if I was starting from scratch, I'd start off with my why. So I think your why it sounds really simple and really sort of dumbed down, but it just is so important to like take it back to basics and be like, what do I want to achieve from this? Who am I trying to target? And in what sort of way do I want to communicate with them? So yeah, is it to get more sales? Is it to get more brand awareness? Is it to get more employees? You don't want to start on TikTok just because everyone else is doing it and it's like the trendy thing, because then you'll just blend in with everyone else. And yeah, once you start knowing your why, then everything else will start to fall into place. And I would say the content that you can create on TikTok, you can either do educational content, so sort of giving industry specific advice, educating people about your company or your product or service, and then sort of inspirational or aspirational content. So this is kind of like the, I don't know, Stephen Bartlett type wannabes that sort of give out like advice for like inspiring people about their particular lifestyle that they'd want to get. So people kind of would would want to look at your content to like inspire them for their future life. And it kind of tends to be a bit more aesthetic and a bit more luxury end of things. And then the other type that you can create is entertaining content. So this is where we've really hit the mark in the legal industry, and we've really like had a lot of success, and we've been really lucky with it. But entertaining content, I think, is the main reason that people are on TikTok at the minute. People come on TikTok at the end of their day or at the beginning of their day for like an hour or so, and they want to just be entertained. And I think if you can hit the right note and the right tone of like how you do it and how you communicate it in a boring niche, then people will be like, oh, that's really shocking that they're dancing in a basement as lawyers, which is what we did. And people were like, what? That's crazy. Like, are they okay? And like, it's just really, I don't know, the authenticity of it and like the humanity. If you show your human side on TikTok and your personality and the people in your firm, people will want to buy from you or want to sign up to work with you or whatever it is that you're interested in being on TikTok for. I think what I've seen a lot of on TikTok and a lot on social media is loads of brands like Duolingo on TikTok. Like, people call them unhinged, but they've worked so well on TikTok. And I think Dr. Miami, and they are entertaining and they are a bit crazy, but they have experienced insane growth and insane just legal press about it. So yeah, I think if you show your humanity, you show your authenticity, and you show different employees and different characters within your industry, in your office or whatever it is, people will really connect with that. I think people buy from people at the end of the day, and if you're not showing that and you're just doing the hard sell approach on TikTok, I think you should start using your employees. But yeah, what I would say is, if you want to do a lot of stuff on TikTok and you're really gung-ho about it this year, I would say the best thing to do is to create your own content, so entertaining content, and then also plug it with a mix of one of these three. Or you can do all three if you are really ambitious. We don't even do all three, but you can do all three if you want. But yeah, it depends on what you're looking for, and if you get the tone right between all three, then you can do them. Don't just do a different tone for each. I think we've tried that and it didn't work. And this is the thing with TikTok and social media, is that I think you have to be ready to fail and ready to test and ready to experiment with stuff. And we've experimented. There is an absolute graveyard of content that we've put out there that has not worked, that I've gone, oh my God, I've liked it from my own account and it's just done so badly. And I've been sat there like, what have I done? The whole account's going to go and be blown up. Like, I think every social media manager is just like always like when you post your own comment or you post your own, liking your own stuff. So yeah, if you're not afraid to test, you're not afraid to experiment, then you'll do really well. But yeah, what I would say is, we have done, these are a bit unhinged. I don't know if you've seen our account, but yeah. Basically, these are 3 examples of stuff that we've done that's worked quite well for us, and stuff that you could do. I would say when we started out, I also still, like Elena, I look at other accounts for inspiration as well. Like, I think everyone does, because you do hit days where you're like, oh, I feel a bit down today, or I'm like not having the creative like thoughts come in my brain, or like something bad's happened and you just can't get it. No matter how hard you try, you write down ideas, you just can't get it out. I think some of my best ideas come when I'm like walking the dog, or like, I don't know, I'm on the sofa when I'm not meant to be working, which is really bad. But yeah, so yeah, I would say the best one to do is, so the first one we started off with, this did quite well. It's not our top video, but I think it got like 88,000 likes or something, which is insane.
I can show it if I have it here. Yes. If you want to play it. It's really funny. When I was uploading all these videos, I was like, I love them.
Oh, thank you.
Let me grab it for you.
So this is just an entertaining one that we did to try and connect with apprentices.
Perfect.
PB, who's people Bryson? 2 years ago, I renewed my license. Anyway, why'd I start my verse like that? You got
love that one.
Wait, do I press?
Here, I can get the next one on if you want.
Yeah. So yeah, that one was for sort of like connecting with apprentices and just trying to show like the fun side of it. And that's actually our managing partner that was doing the video, and it was the tube girl trend that we hopped on really quickly. And people loved it because they were just showing the managing partner with the young apprentices. And I feel like that's something quite rare in law firms that you don't see a lot, where the managing partner and the board and everyone actually mingles with the younger people. So people really like that, and it just resonated with a lot of people. And the next one we did was, this is our most well-performing video. Yeah, and this is another one we did to do sort of the Gen Z audience.
So how have the vibes been lately? Low key? Off. Go off, King. I just feel like life's been mad cringe lately. Like instead of taking W's, I'm taking L's. And how's your Riz? Mid. No cap? On God. It's giving depression. Dead ass? Dead ass. Facts. That's facts. No printer. Period.
That one is so good.
Oh, thank you. But yeah, so that's our top performing one, and it was actually longer, and I wasn't sure about posting it. And I think my younger sister said, "That's so cringe. You can't post that on a legal account." And I was like, "No, I'm going to do it." And then I did it, and it was the best one we've done. And I think it's just another thing about being a social media manager in a legal industry or a boring industry. You have to have so much self-confidence about like your ideas and just putting it forward. And I think don't be afraid to try something new. Don't be afraid to try a different format of content. If it's slightly longer, it could be the reason that you stand out. So yeah. And then the third one we've done is an informational video. So this one is very different. It's quite new to us as well. And it's very different to our other two. But basically, we've started to do it to try and sort of educate our audience about the conveyancing industry, sort of targeting first-time and second-time buyers, about moving house and sort of like the process, because when I joined, I didn't even know what conveyancing was. So it's just a lot of different stuff that we wanted to educate people on. So yeah, we've just started doing that, and this is what this one is about.
Freya, my client has asked how long it takes to move house.
Well, I'm glad you asked that question. The national average is 12 to 16 weeks.
That long?
But it shouldn't take that long with Axwells. Is it a flat or a house? If it's a flat, it's leasehold, and there are other parties involved, like a management company, which means it will take longer. Is there a mortgage or not? If there's a mortgage, then not only do you need to be happy, but also your mortgage lender needs to be happy too. Is your seller buying? If your seller's buying, then you're part of a chain, and that inevitably will slow things down.
Thanks, Nick. What would I have done without you?
Love that one too.
So yeah, thank you. So yeah, that's the sort of last one that we've sort of done as like that's kind of the new route that we're going. We're still going to do entertaining, but we also want to do the educational to like mix it up and get different audiences involved, because TikTok, although people think it's just a dancing app and it's just for kids, I think it's like a lot more people. I can't remember what the statistic is. I read it earlier today, but I think it's just grown and grown to a much older audience, and also a lot of people as well. I think one of the things you can do with your content, if you're looking to do a mix of entertaining and educational, is you can answer your audience's questions, sort of like break down myths about your industry, and common misconceptions that people might have, to just really directly hone in on your audience's sort of problem and solve their problem for them, or answer their questions. So yeah, you could do it sort of for both. But what I would say is, yeah, the next thing I was going to say.
I might say, can we actually skip to this slide here? Because I want to make sure we get this slide, and then there's a few questions that are popping up that I think would be awesome for you to answer before we hop off.
Yes. So what I would say is, if you want to stand out on TikTok, I'd say the main thing is to start off with your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats for both you and your competitors. So you don't want to just go in sort of blind thinking, oh, I'm just going to try this out and hope it works. I think you really want to think strategically about what your strengths are. So are you a really cool, luxurious aesthetic firm? Or if you're in whatever sort of other niche you might be in, why are you different from your competitors? You know, what makes you guys tick? What makes you you? Why are you working there? Like, is there a particular sort of niche in your company, or a particular personality in your company that you think, oh, that guy would be really good to talk about this, or this guy would be really good to talk about this, or this girl, or yeah, who can you find to really emphasize your strengths as a company? So for us, it was, we're a fun place to work. You know, we aren't a really big industry, so we could a really big firm, so we could just sort of show our personality in our like fun environment through TikTok. Weaknesses, so this could be sort of like for your competitor. So you could look at your competitor and think, oh, they're a larger firm, so they might not be able to come across as personal on social media. So yeah. And then another thing I would say is opportunities. So is there a trend that you could hop on that would be like, oh, this is great. This is how we can show our brand voice and our brand identity through this trend. So like the tube girl trend, for example, which was the apprentice video where my boss was flying papers around and stuff. That was an opportunity that we hopped on, and you have to be quite quick with that. And then another thing I would say is threats. So this is kind of like looking internally and thinking, what are the threats to us creating content? Are we quite time poor? So, you know, is there not enough time in the day, or do people not really want to be on camera? And then it's just coming up with little ideas and ways to sort of get around that. So could you do like half a day once per week where you sort of sit down and film content? This is what we do. I still struggle to this day to, you know, get people to sit down and do TikToks or get people's ideas for TikToks. It's not just me as well. I think you really should make sure that you lean on other people as well, and you ask. For me, I have no legal knowledge, not really much, because I'm not from that background. But I have to rely on my legal colleagues and my solicitor colleagues for to be able to resonate with that audience. And then the other thing I'd say is, if you can use trends to build up a community and following, then that will be the best way to start. For us, we started with literally 0 followers and no interest in our account. And it was quite a daunting task, you know, building a legal community and building a legal following. It's just so niche. And yeah, I'd say if you can hop on trends to sort of like boost your views and your following to start off with, then that's the best way to go about it. And then you can focus on creating more informational and educational content once you have a bit of an audience. But yeah, and then I would say community over numbers. So this is so important. I would say if you want to, you know, get what you want out of TikTok and you want to get more sales or whatever you want to do, you need your community first. And I think lots of people, including myself, get sort of bogged down in, oh, have we gone viral yet? Have we got lots of followers? Have we got loads of likes? And that, at the end of the day, is great. But it's like, have you got a community that are bolstering your account, that are boosting you up, that are your brand advocates? Because that's what's going to convert at the end of the day, people by people. And yeah, you want to be authentic as well, is what I was going to say. So if you're authentic and you're true to your brand, this is so important. We often see people on TikTok, and I see it all the time, where I'm like, oh, they've done that trend, but they've done it exactly the same way that someone else has done it. And it's just not, I mean, you can do it and it might be a quick way to go viral, but I think the key thing is, can you take a trend, or can you take a video or a concept and put your own stamp on it and your own personality in it? Can you inject your brand into it in a good way that doesn't feel forced? I think if anything feels forced, overthought, not quite right, don't do it, because we've done that before and it's not ended well. So yeah, just be true to yourselves. You know, how can you put your own stamp on a trend? Because that is what's going to relate to people and resonate with people. The other thing I would say is original content. So this is kind of like educational. Can you like do a sort of skit or an entertaining video that is your own sound? I've seen a lot more of this on TikTok as well, where people are sort of doing sort of YouTube style vlogs or stuff in a landscape format. Again, it's all about trial and error and experimentation, and that's what's so exciting about social media. It's just such a science, but it's a weird science that no one quite understands, but you do when you get it right. So I just think test and be consistent as well. If you're consistent, I think this will really, it's just what everyone says, but it will really make the difference between you and another account, or you and your competitors. And it is so hard to be consistent on TikTok because, like I say, like there's so many problems, time poorness, other employees that won't want to be in videos. But if you can find a way to get around that, or find a way to, yeah, make it simpler, this is going to be great. With your audience, they're going to really trust you and come back to your account and be sort of addicted to your content if you're consistent and you show up. And I think this will also translate to how they feel about your service or your product. You know, if you're showing up here every day, I think it builds such a high degree of trust. And yeah, you want your audience to be recognizing your videos before you before they even see your name on the app. And then the last thing I'd say is feel the fear and do it anyway / kill the cringe. I think when you first start out on social media, it's so stressful to like put yourself out there, especially sometimes if I post a video and I think, oh, this could go viral, and then you're like, oh my god, this could go viral, and it's so scary because you think, oh my gosh, this is my face or this is my boss's face with this really wacky trend or this sort of thing I've just taken a risk on, and it's so scary. But I think the main thing to do if you want to stand out in 2024 is, just kill the cringe and make sure you're brave on social media and you're not scared to try something new. And whatever you do in 2024, it has to bring value, whatever it is. That's what I'd say.
Awesome.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much. I feel like I just learned so much. I know we have only, I think, a minute left. So I just want to do our giveaway winners really quick, and then we'll answer a question. Also, a huge spider just literally landed beside me. I'm just trying to get it away from me. But the HeyOrca winner today was Jenna Lomister. So Jenna, I'll be contacting you after this. Congratulations. And then our Instagram winner was Marcella. So congratulations to both of you. I will be messaging you after this. And then the one question that I think the biggest question I'm seeing, so we'll answer this one before we hop off, is how do you get your team to make those videos? Like, how do you get people on board? Like, do you pitch it to them in a certain way? Are they just like willing? Maybe they're just very outgoing. So how do you get people to actually want to be in those videos?
I would say for me, is really, really hard. Like, I completely empathize with everyone that's a social media manager in any niche like this. It's so hard, and I literally sometimes people laugh at me because I'm like, oh, you look so pretty in that video, like, oh, your hair looks so nice. Like, there's a lot of like persuasion, but what I would say is lawyers, and especially people in corporate areas, you need to just break it down to their language. Like, I will send a diary invite, I will literally put like, this is the video, you don't have to do it if you want, this is how it's going to go. I literally storyboard it for them, or I write down, this is how it's going to work, with bullet points. Because I feel like if you're creative, you have a visual brain, and you're trying to communicate with someone that is so just lawyery, or they are very black and white with the way that they see things, they're not going to see how you're trying to communicate your idea to them, and it's going to make them scared, and they're going to go, oh no. So I'd say make it simple, make it easily accessible for them, make it in a way and a language that they can understand. And also, I would say if you're trying to look to do an office TikTok or anything with your employees, I would say try and rely on, 1, 2, 3, or 4, 5 different employees that you can rely on. And it might take a lot of persuasion, but that's what I'd say.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
And also, Elizabeth, what you mentioned previously is show them the results.
Yeah.
Like, once they see that it works, that's where the buy-in happens. The buy-in happens in the results.
For sure.
And I think that when you get 11 million views on like a 3-second clip, right?
Yeah.
You can't argue with that. Like,
no, exactly. Yeah, they were a bit like, oh, people now, like at the beginning, there was literally, I think, like 2 people that would do it, and one of them was me, and one of them was my boss. So we were just like, please, and then we would grow people up from there. To just slowly, it's just very like softly catchy monkey, like very slowly get people involved and get people going. But yeah, I would say show them results, show them other accounts that you think, say sort of like, I think this is going to get more sales because of X, Y, Z. Just show them the cold hard facts, show them the percentages. I think I saw today that TikTok I think Google themselves came out and said that TikTok is now, I think 40% of Gen Z now use it as a search engine and to search for holiday facts or books or whatever. So just show them the cold hard facts and be like, here it is. We can't argue with these numbers or this, So yeah, I would say that's it's a good point, Elena.
Yes, that's so true. Like, show them the ones that are working well and be like, look, it's working. People actually want to watch our stuff. So thank you so much. We have some awesome comments in the chat right now saying this is their favorite webinar yet. This is right up there with the portfolio webinar. So thank you so much, both of you, for coming today and joining me. I know it's late where you are, so we really appreciate it. And I know there was a lot more questions, so I'm going to leave Elizabeth and Elena's LinkedIn in the chat here. Connect with them, maybe send them a message if you have any other questions. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. And please do a part 2. I will put that on the list. We can definitely do a part 2 because I'm sure there's so much more we can cover about this. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you so
everyone.
much. Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Alyssa and Elena. Thank you.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.